Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. We're getting into the dead period. Phil's going to go on a vacation. I'm going to go on a vacation. I'm going to play a ton of golf. Actually, Phil, depressingly, my handicap is heading in the wrong direction. So for somebody who has a golf simulator, who actually had a putting green installed on the side yard, who already has like 36 rounds of golf in the 2025 season, I've got something called a soft cap applied to my handicap. Do you know what that is?
I have no idea.
It's terrible news if you like golf and if you want to be a good golfer. Basically, my handicap has gone up so much in the calendar year from the lowest that the program basically says, okay, you're getting bad too fast here, and you're going to end up getting too many strokes from people who are not getting worse. So we're going to slow down. We're going to throttle your handicap. So I was at a 7.5. Now I'm at a 10.8. Once you get to 3 strokes above where you were, they throttle you. So I'm a soft cap guy. So I got to get some good scores in real soon. A lot of 88s.
I love that. So you've been so bad lately that the algorithm thinks that you might actually be messing with be messing with it a little bit.
They're afraid that I'm going to be cheating. See, everybody has handicaps for different reasons, and I think that I have my handicap because I want to get better at golf. I'm just self-competitive. I always want to try and get better at things. I'm a perseverator, and my goal was to get down to 5. Well, I'm going the wrong way. Okay. And but other people have handicaps and they pump them up so that when they get in a tournament for money, they're going to get more strokes on more holes. And this is the Patriots Talk podcast. I don't want to go on too much longer here, but I got work to do. So we got one more podcast after this you people are going to love. It's the best of podcast. What?
I had an idea.
What?
You got to get Keegan back on. Get your buddy Keegan Bradley. Get him back on the podcast. Have him talk you through this, and let's figure this thing out on the podcast. I'm sure there are a number of people out there listening to us right now that are having the same issue you are. They might not be a 7 going to a 10, or even an 11. Jeez. But they might be a 12 going to a 15.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a 25 like me, and they're trying to eventually get down to something.
It happens to people.
More respectable.
I'm not ashamed. I just don't want to be with the soft cap situation because I'm diligently trying to always get better. And my wife got me the blue brick, Clay Ballard's blue brick for Father's Day because she had heard me murmur that I wanted that. She got it for me. It's very helpful. Helps you come from the inside. Played last night. I was at the range for an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm diligently working. Hands are a little active. Turn, and full turn. Get your shoulder under your chin. Just full turn. It squares everything up.
This is why you don't want Keegan. You've already got it all figured out. I mean, what's he going to tell you that you don't already know?
Yeah, he's just going to want to talk
about you.
Good point by you, though. We should have him before the Ryder Cup since he is the Ryder Cup captain. Travelers this week, too, which Keegan, of course, won last year. All right, on to the football. Phil, I have a clip from 2022 that I want the folks to take a look at. This is Phil Perry and I discussing the new energy, the cool vibes going into the 2022 season that we perceived around Mac Jones after the first day of training camp. It was good to get back to work. It wasn't high intensity. It is an extension of OTAs and minicamps. But Phil, there's a vibe to this team. Not that they're going to be playoff bound, but there's an energy.
Yeah, I always have a good time at training camp. I love these camps. I love sitting on the hill with you and making our observations and doing what we do. But you're right, a lot of excitement, especially on the offensive side. Maybe because this time of year really helps the offense more than the defense, Tom. But they made some plays today, and they let the defense know it.
I use that clip because currently we are talking a lot about energy and vibes and a newfound sense of purpose for the Patriots. And in what I think was quite possibly one of the most absurdly dysfunctional years, 2022, that clip is evidence that even then, Phil and I could find good energy and good vibes. So I approach this and I say, are all these great energy, good vibes? Is it just vapor? Is it just smoke and mirrors? Is it true? Is it real? Phil, do you look back and realize how often we've talked about it could be a vibe shift?
Yeah. Oh, there's no question. I think it's a trap that we fall into, and it probably is. Let's be honest. It probably is smoke and mirrors, Tom. I mean, did things not feel better last year? How about even all the way into week 1 of last year? Wow, hey, these guys are really playing for the coach, and they were ready to go this year. And it feels like
Take
there's
them
a
to the
little bit of a
hill.
take them to the hill. There's a sense of urgency. They've tapped back into this thing that has made them a winning team in the past, and it didn't last. So it's a great reminder. I'm so glad you pulled that clip. It's embarrassing as all get out, but I'm glad you pulled it because it's a good reminder for us to, as the kids might say, keep the main thing the main thing. This is still a league that wins on smarts and talent and toughness and not vibes.
And there's a purpose now that didn't seem to exist last year, even though they had the two good weeks at the beginning of the year, really, the loss to Seattle, the win over Cincinnati. We still all understood it's a foundational year. It's a building year. No one was intimating playoffs, although I bet we could find a clip where we said maybe the playoffs are in the picture sometime in September last year. But what I wanted to do, Phil, was to make sure that we were not going to get Charlie Brown here from Lucy Van Pelt having the football pulled away. So I wanted to come up with a few tangible or concrete reasons they're better. And they're not necessarily totally tangible, but they're tangible moves the team has made to address problems that existed and to improve them. So you ready to hear 6 of them?
Give me 6.
Okay. And as I wrote on NBCSportsBoston.com, here's a half dozen, take it to the bank, dead mortal lock reasons this Patriots team won't leave you alternating between rage and the fetal position on Sundays this fall. Number 1, a new broom swept clean. Think about this, Phil. David Andrews, Juwan Bentley, Jacoby Brissett, Dietrich Wise, Jabril Peppers, and Joe Cardona were the captains last year. One captain remains. That's Jabril Peppers. Also gone, long-term Patriots, Jonathan Jones, Devon Godshaw. I'm not saying they were bad leaders. Quite the opposite. They were excellent leaders, especially the Andrews, Cardona, Jonathan Jones group. And I'll throw Bentley in there too. But they were attached to a team that had great success and then fell off. And I think they might have been a little world weary. And I think it is important to shift the focus away totally from who the Patriots were under Bill, who the Patriots were under Gerard Mayo. And it's that clinging to the past, which I think ownership tried to do with Gerard. It's kind of a fool's errand. Phil, do you believe that this new leadership group that will ascend is a concrete reason that this team will be better, especially with what we've seen from the Milton Williamses and even the Christian Barmores in this offseason?
This is one I'm not sure.
You're
I'm really
dubious.
not.
Don't blame you.
And it's because the guys that we assume are going to ascend into these leadership positions really haven't won squat. I mean, when we're talking about guys like Robert Spillane, congratulations. You were with the Titans and the Commanders, I believe, and the Raiders. How much winning is Robert Spillane? And he seems like a good leader. I would say the
Yep.
same for Morgan Moses, right? Morgan Moses seems like an incredible guy. Not just in his interactions with us, but in his interactions that we can see on the field during and after practice with guys like Will Campbell. Like he looks and feels like a great leader to me. And the reason these guys um, their previous teams were not winners wasn't, I would say, because of them. But we just haven't seen them, elevate to that kind of status where you would look at them league wide and say, well, these guys know how to do it. I think they do. It sounds like they do. Clearly, Mike Vrabel thinks they do. I think he wants them to enter into those kinds of leadership roles. But Jabril Peppers said it great the other day, and I think he's been a pretty damn good leader.
I
I
do
know he
too.
got into what he got into last year, but I think in terms of engagement and energy and toughness and leading by example, I think he on the field and in the weight room and things like that, I think he does a really good job. But he said he's never had a winning season. So there is still
I forgot he said that.
real question marks just in terms of like, you know, can they go talking about vibes? Can they take what they're bringing to the team right now, which I think are good vibes and good leadership vibes, and actually put it into practice and help them win football games? That's just what I'm still
Great
a
point.
little
Yeah.
hesitant.
Can the trickle down of guys like Vrabel and the coaching staff who've won, in Josh McDaniels' instance, 6 Super Bowls, and Mike Vrabel won 3, been a coach of the year, gone to the playoffs. Carlton Davis won a Super Bowl. Milton Williams won a Super Bowl. Um, Geez, I don't know if anybody else on the offense has really won many playoff games. Be that as it may.
Yeah, the Milton Williams one is a good one, Tom, because I give him credit for being around the entire optional portion of the spring calendar, as far as my understanding, and he has won recently, and it seems like he has a great head on his shoulders. And you mentioned Carlton Davis; he's won too. And I do think your point about moving on from the past is a good one. That's something that needed to happen. So in that sense, to me, yes, I feel like this transition is a good one. I guess we're just still waiting to see if these newer guys can be the types of leaders that we knew guys like Andrews and Jonathan Jones and those types were.
And it's funny, the one name we haven't mentioned at all is their most important player, Drake May. As a leader, I think he's got all the elements you need. But in order to be a leader at the most central and focal position in the sport, perhaps in professional sports, you have to produce. My guess is I would put a bet on that he will, but until he does, you don't know that he is, that he will. So that to me is going to be interesting to watch. You can't go 19 for 36 with a touchdown and 2 picks and a fumble and then get on guys. So it's always predicated on how well are you playing as well. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of days like that, but I'm not ruling them out. Number 2, concrete reason, Phil. 12 of the 14 teams, 12 of the top 14 teams in rushing yards allowed per game. They made the playoffs in 2024. Patriots were 23rd. The top 5 teams on third down in 2024, all of them made the playoffs. Patriots were 26th on third down defensively. 13 of the top 15 teams in takeaway plus minus made the playoffs. The Patriots were 28th in that category. They were minus 11. The Patriots front 7, more specifically their defensive front, should make a massive leap. Milton Williams, plum defensive free agent. Christian Barmore looks tremendous after his health scare and has a purpose. Keon White has a busload of talent that I think somebody's going to tap, or he's intimating that he's heading in the right direction with his belief. Harold Landry has had 31.5 sacks in his last 3 years. So if you improve against the run and get off the field on third down, be better than the worst team in football at generating sacks, create more pressure, and in turn allow your high-priced secondary to make plays, then maybe you're going to come up with more than 7 friggin' picks. So to me, there's concrete improvement on the defensive front in terms of personnel and coaching. I think that should help, Phil.
It definitely should. I agree with you wholeheartedly on this one. The defensive front is talented. They have a variety of skills. I think when you look at Keon White, that is a very different body type than Milton Williams, who's a very different body type than Christian Barmore, who's a different body type than Kyrus Tonga. And I don't
I
know how
left
much,
him out. I should have mentioned him.
I don't know how much he's going to play, but he was somebody that they went out and they made sure they got, and he is a little bit different type of human being in terms of
6'2",
size.
338, folks.
So he's that interior run plugging type on first and second down. But through these passing camps in the spring, when it has been the primary focus has been their passing defense, we've seen Landry next to Barmore, next to Milton Williams, next to Keon White. Or when it wasn't Landry, it was a former first-round pick in Kayvon Chason, who's been disappointing in that regard in terms of making good on his draft status, but is somebody who clearly has physical talent and has since he came out of LSU in 2020. Anthony Jennings.
As a first-round pick, right?
He was a second. Sorry, Kayvon Chason was a first-round pick. Yeah, sorry. Landry, I think, was a second-rounder back in the day.
Yep.
Anthony Jennings, who's a player that you and I both like, is somebody we haven't even mentioned yet because his skill set is a little more vanilla. He's really like a first and second down run stuffing, ragdoll a tight end on the end of the line of scrimmage type, but there's value there too. So I really like their front. I think the linebackers are smart enough to get those guys into good positions when needed. And so I think they will have a trickle down effect on the rest of the defense and the rest of the team based on the personnel improvements that they've made.
Here's probably the most indisputable reason you can say that the Patriots have made drastic improvement in 2025 relative to last year and why it'll be different. Before 2024, Gerard Mayo had never been a head coach. DeMarcus Covington had never been a defensive coordinator. Alex Van Pelt had never been an offensive coordinator and play caller. At the same time, Jeremy Springer had never been a special teams coordinator. Tyler Hughes had never been an NFL wide receivers coach. Dante Hightower had never coached. And T.C. McCartney, quarterbacks coach, he'd only done that once for one season back in 2019. This staff, Mike Vrabel's a former NFL coach of the year, 6 years of head coaching experience. Josh McDaniels, 4 years head coaching experience, 13 years as a coordinator, 6 rings. Marone, your offensive line coach, he was a head coach for 7 NFL seasons, 14th season as an offensive line coach. Thomas Brown, he's just your passing game coordinator. Not diminishing that, but I'm saying it's a title that didn't really exist a few years ago. But in that role, he's already been 2 years as an offensive coordinator. He was the Bears' interim head coach last year. Todd Downing never coached wideouts, but he's your wide receivers coach, and he's been an NFL offensive coordinator for 3 different seasons. He's got 21 seasons in the league. The only guy you can really mention, Terrell Williams, he's your defensive coordinator. Mike Vrabel said he's hoping that he'll be back from his health scare and with the team at the beginning of training camp. First year as a DC, but he's been coaching in the NFL for 13 seasons, and he's got Vrabel as his head coach, and they share a brain. So it's not a golden ticket to success that you have this kind of experience, but when you look at last year's group trying to learn each other, learn expectations, learn who they were as coaches, and this group that knows what they want and how to do it, it's the most drastic advantage I think this year's group has over last year's.
No question. And I think even something as simple as or you would think it was simple as the messaging that the players will receive, the public, and ownership itself. That is a really important role for Mike Vrabel to take on. And it's something he has a lot of experience with, and it's something that I think he excels at. We'll see, I guess, as we get to know him and we spend more time with him behind a podium, Tom, and we get a good feel for, how it really will work with him right after games or the Monday morning after games. How does he handle his radio, interview opportunities? Like, those are all things that we know just impacted the perception of the staff last year, and it trickled down into the locker room.
Sure.
I think the messaging in terms of, what the expectations were for the team trickled into the locker room, and it got into players' heads, and they knew they weren't supposed to be very good. And I think they played like they knew they weren't supposed to be very good at times. And, those are the kinds of things that you would expect this group to be more on top of just based on their experience alone.
Agreed with my agreeance from you. Next one, Phil.
I got to come up with something I disagree with here. I have a couple in mind that we haven't gotten to yet, but we will get to.
Phil, I'm going to give you another one that's, it's hard to see until you've seen it, but shutdown secondary. The Patriots are 3rd in the NFL in positional spending at safety, 6th in overall defensive spending. Did you know that? They have a second-team All-Pro at cornerback in Christian Gonzalez. He's still in his rookie contract, too. They got a high-priced addition in Carlton Davis, whose contract is not as astronomical as I thought when I started looking at overthecap.com. It's a top 15 contract, but it's not that insane. Kyle Duggar, he's the 6th highest paid safety in terms of guaranteed money. Jabril Peppers, he's a top 20 in terms of payment. Slot corner is Marcus Jones, good player. We know that. Newly drafted safety Craig Woodson. Some people, our pal Bruce Feldman for one, said he could be a 4th-round steal. They have a true free safety in Marcus Epps that they added. They got an underrated safety, Phil, in Jalen Hawkins. Good depth. And they got Dirty Del Pettis, who I absolutely love. So as much as we've talked about the front half of the defense, I think the back end of the defense has the potential to be at the very least, better than average.
Oh, it has to be better than average. And I would say it has the potential to be their strength. And maybe it'll be hard for us to discern. Maybe we'll be doing a Patriots Talk podcast midseason, and we'll be saying which position group is this team's best. Why do they have a winning record? We're almost to Halloween and they've got a winning. I'm just making things up right now. But is it the defensive front or is it the secondary? I think that could be a real conversation because I think the potential that you have in Gonzalez, who we know is excellent, and Davis, who we know has been excellent at times, especially in man-to-man heavy schemes, to have those two guys together and what you might be able to do defensively in terms of funneling targets to weapons that the offense might not want to target as often as they're targeting them when they come to Gillette Stadium because of those two really good players you have on the outside, because of the versatility that you have in the safety group. I think to maybe
you should be able to cover the changeup guy. You should be able to cover the tight end that they want to go to because Gonzalez is taking away whichever best player you have with a secondary guy, and you're doubling with Davis and another safety.
The tight end, the backs, like I think they have matchups for all of these guys, and I think that the versatility that you have in the secondary will allow Terrell Davis, Mike Vrabel to get creative with how they deploy these guys. I look at how Vrabel deployed his safeties in Tennessee, and they were really everywhere, all of them. They didn't have, Kevin Byard was a guy who came up with a lot of interceptions, but he wasn't like this true in the post Devin McCourty style free safety. He was in the slot at times. He was in the box at times as a strong safety. He was in the deep half of the field at times. Same for Kenny Vaccaro, same for Amani Hooker. You can do that with the guys you have in New England. So I think the secondary and the improvements they've made is a great example of a stone cold lock of a reason why they will be better in 2025.
This one's sticky. Phil is going to, I imagine, agree with this as a definitive reason they will be better than 2024. They got a breezy schedule. Now, last year's wasn't diabolical, but they were dealing with too many experienced quarterbacks for the Jacoby Brissett, no offensive line, Drake May apprentice year for them to really have the quarterback edge on a regular basis. They saw Joe Burrow, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers dissected them. They saw Brock Purdy, Tua, and Trevor Lawrence out of the gate. Down the stretch, they saw Stafford. They saw Tua again. And I only mentioned Tua because the Patriots cannot beat him. They saw Josh Allen twice, Kyler Murray, and Justin Herbert. And they got absolutely, the Herbert game was the worst of the season. So this year, they're going to go Geno and the Raiders, not the Seahawks. First year with the Raiders. Then they'll see Tua. Not easy. They'll see Rodgers and his Steelers team. And then they get Bryce Young. Then they got Allen. Okay. But after that, they see the Saints, the Titans, Browns, and the Falcons with Michael Penix. They should have the quarterback edge in all those games, and additionally against Justin Fields, whoever is under center for the Giants. And then they're going to have an issue with Allen and Lamar Jackson late. But to me, the schedule is so much easier. That should result in more wins. It's not misplaced faith for us to sit here in June and say, better team, good vibes, high energy.
I listen, I don't know what's gotten into me because
it was a well-crafted story. I wrote
the better part of the last decade, I have disagreed with everything that's come out of your mouth, and you have let me hear about it and how much it's bothered you.
I think in private too, folks, you should know that. He's like this in private.
It's true.
It's just contrary Phil.
Mm-hmm.
And I deal with it's probably the age gap because I deal with it with my kids. It's just whatever comes out of my mouth is, yep, you're all wet. You don't know what you're talking about.
But I don't feel that way. The schedule's a great reason why their record should be better. Right? I guess the record's not a great reason why, the schedule's not a great reason why they will truly, in terms of the football product and their efficiency and their skill level. Like if you just change the people in front of that team last year, they might have ended up with a better record too. But the record will be better and we will judge them by their record. And so I'm with you on this one. It will be a better experience for everyone involved, fans especially, in part because of the record. Yes. The record. I keep saying record. The schedule. Say the schedule one time.
Say the schedule,
Let's
Phil.
say it. Schedule. Jeez.
Last one for me, return of urgency. Let's look at this. Do you know how much time this franchise has spent twiddling its thumbs and waiting for tomorrow when everything's going to be better over the last decade? Pretty much the whole decade. Bill Belichick said 2020 was a reset year. Team went after it in 2021. They made the playoffs. They got boat raced, but they made the playoffs. They entered 2022. No urgency. No urgency. We're going to be fun. Well, we'll see how it goes here with the offensive coordinator thing. What are we supposed to worry about that? No cogent offensive plan. No urgency to bring in with one. 2023.
We call it plays in OTAs. Yeah. What are we?
2023. Bill, why should people be optimistic? No concrete answer to that question posed by Mike Reese at the owners' meetings. Just past 25 years, Mike. Basically, urgency was reflecting back on all the things you had done. Not Christ, man. I might get fired, Mike, if we don't. I mean, what are you, crazy? Think I want to have another season like last year? My God, we better win. We'll put feet to the fire here. No, none of that. In 2024, they basically went into the year saying, sorry, this is the PSAT. Take the SAT next year. Well, that's when we'll really keep score. That didn't work out. You're not hearing any of that from Mike Vrabel right now. Not saying that urgency is going to translate into a playoff level team, but with the free agent pursuit, with the messaging we can hear, and even though some of those free agent pursuits were failed, you could tell they were paying attention to it. The OTA attendance, we've focused on Carlton Davis missing whatever he missed, which wasn't all of them, and Stephon Diggs missing one and being on a pontoon boat. But otherwise, the attendance was ridiculous. So they're not just building this year. This isn't just a placeholder year to figure shit out. They're after it, I think. And that urgency has been absent in Foxborough for a while.
It has been. And I do, I have some reservations just to see how it goes as the season goes.
Yeah.
Do you at some point, if you're Mike Vrabel, if it's not going well, because the roster, and this is what I want to bring up with you, the roster on the offensive side, we've talked about how strong the defense looks. On the offensive side, it's still not great. And so will there ever be a part of Mike Vrabel that says to us or says to his team or both, hey, we're doing everything we can here. This season is about establishing something, and it doesn't mean we're not going to push our guys, but we're not where we want to be as an organization right now. Hopefully we'll get there soon, and we're laying that foundation right now as we speak. We're taking a lot of pride in that, but we also know what our reality is.
Yeah.
Will he ever have to do that if they don't have that winning record by
I think he might have to do that after, say, they lose 1916 and Will Campbell lets up a strip sack and Kyle Williams doesn't get 2 feet in bounds and they lose out on a key first down. I mean, it is human nature to say they'll be better. Got a lot of faith in those guys. They'll be better. As opposed to, we can't have that.
That's the thing. There's something to, he, as hard driving a guy as he can be, he also is described by almost all these guys as a player's coach. And so at some point, do you have to lay off the gas pedal to a degree just so it's not, man, you guys suck. Man, you suck. Man, I can't believe you did this. And this was what you did wrong here. And do you ever, and I thought there was maybe too much of this last year, but, trying to soften expectations so that these guys aren't completely beaten down by the time they get to December if things aren't going the way they want them to go. It's a tough balance for anybody to try to strike.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because Mayo would toggle too quickly, I think, between he needs time to, Jesus, can we get better? I mean, from he just lacerate Jalen Polk or say the team was soft, but it was real, and I don't doubt that it was completely accurate. But again, it goes back to the top and the messaging of, Bill, everybody sucked. I mean, Demario Douglas has to spend 6 weeks in the friggin' doghouse because of a, punch out from behind against Miami when he's the best friggin' player on the 2023 offense. Now he's unusable. Keishon Boutte, unusable because he
And I
didn't
really
get 2
think,
feet in.
and I think Vrabel is very cognizant of not being that guy. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to be like that. So but he is competitive and he is going to ask a lot of these guys. And so there's a balance that he's going to have to strike. I'm really interested to see how he hits it. So those are your 6 things.
Yeah. Let's get your tangible differences before we cut you loose.
I did want to just point to the offensive side because I do think while they're not great there yet and they're not where the defense is in my opinion in terms of the talent, they are improved, right? Like, wouldn't you say that the improvements that they made on the offensive line have to yield better results in terms of even what they're able to do just in the run game? Never mind, like, let's wait and see on Drake May and developing alongside Josh McDaniels, and let's see what they have in these receivers. But on the line, even though you have still, to me, two big question marks at center and left guard, the improvements at tackle with Moses and what we think Campbell could be, which is at least like a middle of the road kind of left tackle, that's better than what they had last year.
It
Shouldn't they be
is.
better offensively because of that?
They should. I guess what's hard for me to embrace offensive guaranteed, write it down in pen improvement is the unknown. Like I think Cole Strange will play a fine at left guard. I don't think we're going to spend a lot of days saying you got to get Cole Strange out of there. He absolutely can't play. I think he's going to be okay, and I think he'll win that position. But I haven't seen it.
Mm.
Patel over the last 2 years has eliminated that ability to say, I know that. Same thing with Campbell at left tackle. You have to see it. Is that what we talked about for months going to be exploited? Travion Henderson, to me, is an add at a position they simply didn't have. So that's definitely a check mark at the third down back, plus third down back and a whole lot more type role. And Diggs should be a big boon. So to me, yeah, those are the concrete areas I see. And again, tackle, I think Moses adding stability to the offensive line is a massive thing too. I mean, Mike Onwenu's here, he's there, he's in the lineup, he's out of the lineup, he's in shape, he's out of shape. But I think that Moses, you have a stabilizer, you got a rudder underneath this whole thing that will underpin everything.
I agree with that. And the other one that I did want to mention is I'm a believer that Drake May will improve in his second year. Am I too easily won over by the just straight year one to year two leap? Because we have seen quarterbacks in the past go in the wrong direction. But my contention is with the ad of Josh McDaniels and based on who he's replacing, although I thought Alex Van Pelt at times did do a good job, but this is really more in terms of the overall organization of the offense and play calling. He's got to get better, right? And that would be one to me that could make what looks like a lackluster group of offensive talent better than what they seem to be right now would be if you can just get a little more from the guy who's touching the ball on every play.
Yeah. And that to me remains the biggest thing. We're going to see improvement, but are we going to see the improvement arc? Like, are we going to see this? Or are we going to see that?
Mm.
And I think that most of us presume it's going to be that, but I do think that it'll probably be more like that. And there's going to be a lot of days where I go, couldn't he have played better than that?
Mm.
And it'll come, but I think it's going to be a difficult second year for him in some fashion. It's not going to be as hard as the first year. He's going to have better players around him. He's going to have better structure around him. But I'm a break tapper on May, just because I think it's a hard position. It's still not a great team around him. I have no reservations about his character, leadership, toughness, any of that. It's a hard ass position.
It is, and I'm more of a break tapper on the weapons around him, I think, than you are. Like I'm still very much we got to see it on Diggs. The history of guys coming off of ACLs at that position just is not very good the year after, and he's older than most trying to do that. And so I'm a wait and see on him, and I still think even if you assume that they are for almost a full season going to get what Diggs gave the Texans last year when healthy, they're still probably, Tom, one of the worst offensive weapons contingents in the NFL. And so that might inhibit Drake May's ability to really take that year 2 leap, even with a guy that I know you and I both think is a good quarterbacks coach and coordinator in Josh McDaniels. So that could impact whether or not he's able to improve at the rate that I think he will, May.
Bill, great pod. Everybody out there, strap in for the humidity. I'm going to California, to Huntington Beach. Going to go visit Sam Curran. Okay. Going out there on Friday. I'll be back by next Tuesday. Going to miss the humidity. Going to miss you folks. But Phil and I are going to be back next week with one final pod before training camp. Okay. We're going to try and do it on Wednesday. Come back on Tuesday. And it's going to be our best of pod. You're going to really enjoy it because we're going to do best of, not best of rating things, but best of things that we have enjoyed, seen, witnessed on the beat. Phil, see you later, bro.
Bye.